3 years ago, a 71-year-old retired electrician sat across from me in my clinic. He'd spent 40 years working with his hands, fixing things, solving problems, and he approached his health the same way, methodically, seriously. He was walking 30 minutes every morning. He'd cut out salt almost entirely. He hadn't touched red meat in over a year. His wife was cooking carefully. They were doing everything right. His systolic blood pressure was still sitting at 158. He looked at me and said, "I've done everything you people tell me to do. What am I missing?" And I remember thinking, this is exactly the conversation I don't have enough time for in a 15-minute appointment. Because what he was missing wasn't effort. It wasn't willpower. It was specific information about specific foods that work through a mechanism most people have never been told about. I'm Dr. Elliot Marsh. I've spent over 20 years as a cardiologist, and I can tell you that what I'm about to share with you today could start changing your numbers within 2 weeks. Not by adding a prescription, not by another restriction, by adding 5 foods that are probably sitting in a grocery store 10 minutes from your house right now. Stay with me, because number 1 on this list is something most people eat entirely wrong, and when I tell you the difference, you'll understand why it works so much better the right way. And after the 5 foods, I have 2 bonus strategies that make every single item on this list more powerful. Here's what we're covering: 5 foods that have real, measurable effects on blood pressure in adults over 60. We're counting down from number 5 to number 1. And number 1, it's the most surprising on the list. The one that made my retired electrician genuinely laugh when I told him, because he'd been avoiding it for years, thinking it was bad for him. After the 5 foods, stay with me for 2 bonus strategies, including one that involves the exact time of day you eat, which changes everything. Let me give you 60 seconds of science so the rest of this makes complete sense. Your blood pressure is essentially the force your blood puts against the walls of your arteries with every heartbeat. Picture a garden hose. Turn the water pressure too high, and the hose strains at the seams. Do that for years, and the hose weakens, cracks, hardens. That's what sustained high blood pressure does to your arteries, quietly, invisibly, over time. Now, after 60, several things happen simultaneously. The arteries naturally stiffen somewhat. The kidneys become less efficient at managing sodium and fluid balance. And the tiny muscles wrapped around your blood vessel walls, called smooth muscle, become more reactive, more prone to tightening when they shouldn't. Here's what makes this particularly serious. A study published in Hypertension found that adults over 60 with uncontrolled blood pressure face significantly elevated risk of stroke, heart failure, and kidney decline, often without a single warning symptom beforehand. No pain, no signal. Just damage accumulating quietly. But here's what changes everything. Each of the 5 foods I'm about to show you targets one or more of these exact mechanisms: sodium balance, vessel flexibility, smooth muscle tension. That's exactly why they work. And that's exactly why you can start feeling a difference starting tonight. Let's begin with number 5. Now, I want to tell you about something most people overlook completely. It's so ordinary that when I mention it to patients, they almost dismiss it. And that would be a mistake. Number 5 is plain low-fat yogurt. Not flavored. Not fruit on the bottom. Plain, unsweetened, low-fat yogurt. Here's why it earns a place on this list. Yogurt is one of the most concentrated, accessible sources of dietary calcium and potassium together. And that combination matters enormously for blood pressure in older adults. Think of it this way. Potassium is like a pressure release valve for your blood vessels. It signals the smooth muscle in your artery walls to relax, to open up, to let blood through with less resistance. Calcium supports the electrical signals that regulate how hard the heart contracts. Together, they create conditions where lower pressure becomes almost a natural consequence. Here's exactly how to use it. 1 cup, about 230 grams, once a day. Morning is ideal, with breakfast or as your breakfast. Add a small handful of unsalted walnuts or a few slices of banana if you want to make it a complete meal. What you want to avoid is adding honey or granola. Those spike insulin, which can trigger a chain reaction that actually tightens blood vessels. Common mistake: people buy the flavored versions thinking, Yogurt is yogurt. It isn't. The added sugar in flavored yogurt partially offsets the cardiovascular benefit. Read the label. 5 ingredients or fewer, plain. That's the version that does the work. If you're on blood pressure medication that affects potassium levels, some diuretics do, check with your doctor first, before significantly increasing potassium-rich foods. This applies to several items on today's list. This next one surprises almost every patient I mention it to, because most people in their 60s and 70s have been told to avoid it. Number 4 is dark chocolate, specifically 70% cocoa or higher. I can already hear the skepticism. And honestly, good. So let me show you exactly why this works, because the mechanism is specific and the research is solid. Dark chocolate at 70% or above contains compounds called flavanols. These flavanols stimulate the inner lining of your blood vessels, called the endothelium, to produce nitric oxide. And nitric oxide is the body's natural vessel-relaxing chemical. It's like WD-40 for your arteries. It loosens the tension in those smooth muscle walls, widens the passage, reduces the pressure. A study published in the British Medical Journal found that regular consumption of high cocoa dark chocolate was associated with a meaningful reduction in both systolic and diastolic blood pressure in older adults with elevated readings. Here's the instruction that matters. 1 to 2 small squares, roughly 20 to 30 grams, per day. After lunch is ideal, not before bed, and it must be 70% cocoa or higher. Below that threshold, the sugar content outweighs the flavanol benefit. Write that down, 70% or higher. That is the number that matters. Have you been avoiding dark chocolate because you thought all chocolate was off limits? Tell me in the comments. You're definitely not alone in that. Before we move to number 3, let me tell you something that stopped me when I first came across it. Most people trying to manage blood pressure are so focused on removing things from their diet, less salt, less fat, less this, less that they miss the extraordinary power of adding the right things. That's the real shift I want you to make today. Addition, not just restriction. Number 3 is cooked beets or pure beet juice. This one is shorter and simpler, because the science is direct and the instructions are easy. Beets are extraordinarily high in dietary nitrates. When you eat them, your body converts those nitrates into, yes, nitric oxide. Same mechanism as the dark chocolate, but through a completely different pathway. It's like having 2 separate roads leading to the same destination. Your arteries widen. Pressure drops. One of my patients, a 66-year-old retired school librarian, added half a cup of cooked beets to her lunch 3 times a week. Nothing else changed. Within 3 weeks, her systolic reading had dropped by 9 points. She was genuinely stunned. 9 points from adding something to her plate. Here's how to use it. Half a cup of cooked beets, 3 to 4 times per week. Or 250 ml of pure beet juice, no added sugar, once daily. Morning or lunchtime. Don't cook beets at very high heat for extended periods, as this degrades the nitrates. Roast at moderate heat or steam them. Common mistake. People drink the pre-packaged beet juices with added apple or grape juice to make them taste better. Those versions can have enough added sugar to blunt the blood pressure benefit. Pure, unsweetened. That's the version that earns its place. My friends, before we get to the top 2 foods on this list, please hit the like button. It helps this reach people who are managing blood pressure every single day and don't know these options exist. Subscribe if you haven't, because every week I put out guides like this one. Now, let's go to number 2. Let me be very clear about something. Number 2 is not exciting to look at. It doesn't have a remarkable flavor. But in my 20 years as a cardiologist, very few single dietary changes have impressed me as consistently as this one has in my patients. Number 2 is cooked oats, specifically steel-cut or rolled oats, not instant. Oats contain a specific type of soluble fiber called beta-glucan. Here's what beta-glucan does that almost nothing else can match. It forms a thick, gel-like substance in your digestive tract that binds to cholesterol and, critically, helps regulate insulin response after meals. And here's the connection most people miss. Every insulin spike causes a corresponding wave of arterial constriction. Less insulin response means less vessel tightening throughout the day. Meal after meal. Day after day. Over weeks, that reduction in repeated tightening allows the arteries to maintain a softer, more relaxed baseline state. A study published in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition found that regular oat consumption was associated with reductions in systolic blood pressure of up to 7 points in adults with elevated readings, independent of weight loss. That means the benefit wasn't just from losing weight. The oats themselves were doing the work. Here's exactly how to prepare them for maximum benefit. 3/4 of a cup of dry steel-cut or rolled oats, cooked with water or unsweetened plant milk. Eat this as your breakfast, ideally 5 days a week. Add a tablespoon of ground flaxseed if you want to amplify the effect. I'll explain why in the bonus section. What you do not want to add is sugar, flavored syrups, or the instant packets with added sodium. Those eliminate the benefit entirely. Common mistake. People use the 1-minute instant oats and assume they're getting the same effect. The processing that makes them cook faster also strips out a significant portion of the beta-glucan. Rolled oats take 5 minutes. Steel cut take 20. Both are worth it. Instant oats are not the same product. This is something most doctors don't have time to explain in a 15-minute appointment. The specific preparation of a food can be the difference between a therapeutic effect and no effect at all. Now let's talk about number 1. Now let me ask you something. What if the food you've been most afraid of, the one people have been warning you about for 30 years, turned out to be one of the most powerful tools you have for protecting your heart and lowering your blood pressure? What if the science changed and nobody told you? Number 1 is eggs. Specifically, whole eggs including the yolk. I know. Stay with me. For decades, eggs were positioned as an enemy of heart health because of dietary cholesterol. Patients avoided them. Doctors cautioned against them. And here's the thing. That advice was based on older research that we now understand was incomplete. The research on this is remarkably clear in 2024. For most adults, dietary cholesterol from whole eggs has a far smaller effect on blood LDL cholesterol than saturated fat does, and eggs contain something that makes them genuinely valuable for blood pressure specifically, a group of proteins called peptides that, once digested, act as natural ACE inhibitors. ACE inhibitors are literally a class of blood pressure medication. The egg-derived peptides do something similar. They block an enzyme that causes blood vessels to constrict. Think of that enzyme as a tightening mechanism inside your vessel walls. Eggs contain the key that partially switches it off. One of my patients, a 76-year-old former postal worker who had been eating only egg whites for 11 years on his doctor's advice, switched back to 2 whole eggs for breakfast 4 times a week. His doctor, reviewing his labs 6 months later, noted his blood pressure had improved and his HDL, the protective cholesterol, had risen meaningfully. He called me and said, "I can't believe I gave up egg yolks for a decade for nothing." A study published in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition found that moderate whole egg consumption, up to 1 per day, was not associated with increased cardiovascular risk in healthy older adults and was linked to improvements in blood pressure, markers in several subgroups. Here's the instruction. 2 whole eggs, 3 to 4 times per week, scrambled, poached, or soft-boiled, not fried in butter or oil. The preparation matters. You don't want to add saturated fat back in through cooking method. And if you have a specific condition like type 2 diabetes or familial hypercholesterolemia, have this conversation with your doctor before changing your egg intake. For most people over 60 without those conditions, the evidence strongly supports moderate whole egg consumption. If you remember nothing else about number 1, remember this. The yolk is not your enemy. The yolk is where the benefit lives. Now, the 2 bonus strategies I promised you. These are quick but powerful, and they make every single food on this list work harder. Bonus number 1, the 2-hour eating window rule. The timing of when you eat your blood pressure supporting foods matters more than most people realize. Your blood pressure follows a natural daily rhythm. It rises in the morning, peaks in the afternoon, and drops at night. Eating the most nutritionally dense foods, your oats, your yogurt, your eggs, In the first half of the day means your body processes and uses those nutrients during the hours when your cardiovascular system is most active and most responsive. Eating them at 9 p.m. means much of the benefit is blunted. Front-load your nutrition before 2 p.m. It's the same food, working significantly better. Bonus number 2, ground flaxseed. 1 tablespoon a day. Sprinkle it on your oats, stir it into yogurt, add it to a smoothie. Flaxseed contains alpha-linolenic acid, a plant-based omega-3 fatty acid, along with lignans that have been shown to support endothelial function, which is the health of that inner lining of your blood vessels. It takes about 2 minutes to add to something you're already eating. A study published in Hypertension found that daily flaxseed consumption was associated with a reduction in systolic blood pressure of up to 10 points in adults with peripheral artery disease. Even for those without that condition, the directional benefit for vessel health is well established. Now, I want to stop here for a moment because I want to finish the story I started. That retired electrician, the man who walked every morning, cut his salt, gave up red meat, and still couldn't get his blood pressure below 158. 6 months after that appointment, he came back, and I knew before he sat down. He had that particular ease about him, the way a person carries themselves when something that was weighing on them has lifted. His systolic pressure was a 136, down 22 points. No new medication. He'd added the oats, the eggs, the dark chocolate, which he told me felt like cheating. His wife had started making beet salad twice a week. He was sleeping better. His energy was back. He said, "You know what I was missing? I was so focused on taking things away, I never thought about what I could add." That sentence stayed with me. Because that's what this channel is built on. Every single one of these 5 foods works through the same fundamental mechanism, improving how your blood vessels relax, respond, and regulate pressure from the inside out. Nitric oxide production, smooth muscle relaxation, sodium balance, insulin response management. 5 different foods, 5 different entry points, all leading to the same result. Fix the root and everything shifts. You have everything you need right now. Not a pharmacy, not a new prescription, a grocery list, and the information that should have reached you a long time ago. Let's bring this all together because I don't want you leaving with a list you'll forget by tomorrow. 1. Plain low-fat yogurt, 1 cup daily with breakfast. 2. Dark chocolate, 70% cocoa or higher, 1 to 2 squares after lunch. 3. Cooked beets or pure beet juice, half a cup or 250 ml, 3 to 4 times per week. 4. Steel cut or rolled oats, 3/4 cup dry, 5 mornings a week. 5. Whole eggs, 2 eggs, 3 to 4 times per week, poached or soft-boiled. That's it. No exotic supplements, no expensive equipment. Foods from a regular grocery store. Now here's what I want you to do right now. Pick just one. Not all 5. Just one that fits most easily into how you already eat. Maybe it's the dark chocolate, easy, enjoyable, and you've been avoiding it for years for no reason. Maybe it's the oats, because you're already a breakfast person. Just one. One small addition, made consistently until it becomes invisible. Not after your next appointment. Tonight. Which of these 5 are you starting with? Tell me in the comments. I genuinely want to know. And if someone in your life is managing blood pressure without knowing these options, share this with them. That sharing could make a real difference for someone you love. Subscribe if you haven't. Every week, honest information I wish every patient I've ever seen had sitting on their kitchen counter before they needed a prescription. One last thing, and this is important. Everything I've shared today is general information based on current research and my clinical experience. It is not a replacement for your personal medical care. Please do not stop or change any medication without speaking to your doctor first. Some of these foods interact with certain medications. Beets and dark chocolate can enhance the effect of blood pressure drugs, for example. Bring this list to your next appointment. Have the conversation. Your doctor is your partner in this, not your opponent. The connection between what you eat and how well you sleep after 60 is something thousands of viewers have told me genuinely surprised them. I highly recommend you watch that one next. I'll see you there.